FamilyAffaires.com contributor, Dr. Dan Gottlieb. Hi, Dr. Dan.
Hey, Roseanne.
It's almost Father's Day. So I decided today, instead of me asking you a question, I'm just going to ask you to talk about what it means to be a father to you.
Well, first of all, what went through my mind, and I'm told I should never just talk about what went through my mind, but I will anyway. So when you said it's Father's Day, first thing I thought was, yes, and that's a day when we have the opportunity to take our families out to dinner.
Or barbecue.
What's it mean to be a father? What being a father meant to my father, and I resented him for not being around, what it meant to him was he worked a job for 35 years that he hated. I never knew how devoted he was to his family that way. I felt loved, but I didn't know till I was older. Much older, sadly.
When you were saying he wasn't around, it was because he was working so
worked
much.
6 days a week.
Right.
When my girls were first born in the 70s, when they were first born, I mean, that was my upbringing. And what it meant to me, now, I'm a child of the 60s, a little more enlightened than previous generations. What being a father meant to me was being the breadwinner and taking care of my family.
So you were repeating what your father did.
Right. And, you know, that's part of our wiring for how many thousands of years,
Sure.
right? Maybe since we're on all fours. I remember we were driving, the girls were in the back seat in their little car seats, and the tire got a flat, the car got a flat. And a little girl, one of my daughters said in the back, "Oh, don't worry, Daddy will pick up the car and he'll fix it." I knew that I was, and
You're
that,
going to pick the car up.
that was their image of me.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, I bought into that as my responsibility, to be that for them. And I think that was appropriate, given that age. And then I broke my neck when they were 5 or 6. And I couldn't make an income. I couldn't make a living. I was on Social Security. My kids got scholarships to the daycare. I was broken and dependent. And I didn't feel like a father, a good father. I didn't feel like a man. You know, 10 years later, I gave a talk, maybe longer. I gave a talk to a group of physicians over in Pennsylvania, about dealing with different kinds of patient communication. And I was in the back of an amphitheater. I wasn't on yet. There was a urologist, or urologists were talking. And he was a few rows in front of me. He didn't see me behind him. And he said, raised his hand. He said, "How do I tell my quadriplegic patient that he's half a man now?"
He actually said that.
Yeah. So, you know, the traditional thinking among men was to be a man, you had to have an erection and be able to ejaculate. That's what that meant to him, to be a man. And so I felt so inferior, inadequate, guilt-ridden. I carried with me the guilt or grief that I couldn't play ball with the kids in the backyard like I used to, that I couldn't teach them how to ride a two-wheel. I carried that with me. And maybe 5 years ago, I was having dinner with Debbie.
That's your oldest?
Youngest.
Oh, the youngest, okay.
By 11 months.
Okay.
And I told her what I'd been carrying. And she cried. She cried that I had been suffering for all those years. And what I brought to them was the ability to sit still, to listen,
Wow.
to ask questions, to not control, to ask questions, to be with them, to be curious, to love them differently. Because once I could accept my, whatever you want to call it, my brokenness, I could accept theirs. And I think that's the only way I could have accepted theirs. Because as long as I spent my life trying to hide mine, I couldn't have tolerated theirs. I just had lunch with a dear friend of mine, and his sons are in their early 20s. The youngest one just graduated college. His wife has a good job. He's a professional, and his income has gone down and down and down to the point where he's really struggling, really, really worrying. So I said, and he's still supplementing his daughter, who's working in New York. Said he can barely afford, he's taken out savings to do that.
Wow.
And I said, does anybody in your family know? He said, no. He loves his wife, they've got a great relationship. She doesn't. Why?
Shame.
Yeah, he feels shame. Because of that old definition of what it means to be a man.
Right.
It broke my heart
Sure.
to hear that. What's it mean to be a man? What's it mean to be a father? Is to love differently, to protect differently, to love gently. Go out there and fight the wars, because that's what we do. But do it with a tender heart. Do it with love. Care for your family with love. And every day, to be a good father, to be a good human, love who you love better. Know how their eyes look when they're tired. Know how they hold their shoulders, their eyebrows when they're stressed. Love who you love that well, whether you're a man or a woman. And I don't like to think there's a tremendous difference.
No, I don't think so.
Now, be a good, loving, generous human, and you'll be happy, and those around you will.
What a beautiful message. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.